more. I got all sorts of questions. After we had stopped recording, we started talking more about the Islamic mysticism and
Mm-hmm.
both the experience that he and I both had had with different, not necessarily mystical, but supernatural elements in life and stuff like that. And it was a really interesting dude. Really want to talk to him more about that and get deeper into that topic of the Islamic mysticism versus Western mysticism. And I mean, how like everything is really the same. Why are we killing each other? you know,
Yeah. Speaking of killing each other, I can't wait to kill this year.
fucking a man. I'll be so glad when it's over. It's been a it's been a rough several weeks. So what have you been doing the last several weeks?
Oh, yeah. I have been doing the appropriate mourning actions and grieving actions and paying my respects. Uh, and before we get any further into what you're doing, thank you everybody for tuning into the show. I'm Jake,
I'm Drake.
and this is the Jake and Drake Show. Um, we have been gone for a long, long time. Feels like a long time, yeah.
I guess it's only been two. We only missed 2 weeks, didn't we?
We did, but I'm just saying it. It
Yeah,
feels like
it
a
does
long
feel long.
time, and we might
It's been a
miss it.
long 2 fucking weeks.
We might miss another week, depending on well, depending on if we get another show in before the weekend. But mm.
Yeah, I could use a drink too, but I can't have one right now. All the drugs I'm on.
Okay, so
See, while
explain to
you
me and
were
the
off,
audience.
while you were off gallivanting
Mm-hmm.
and going to funerals, um, I went to my doctor and they decided that I'm such a jerk that I needed a second asshole, and they cut a second asshole in me and to drain an abscess. So that's what I've been dealing with. I've pretty much been in bed for the past 3 weeks straight.
Like I had been telling you since the day I met you, if you just washed your ass more often, this wouldn't happen.
Wasn't quite like that, but yes, and I've taken more baths in these past couple of weeks than I have, I think,
In
the
your,
prior 40 years of my life.
I mean, I don't, I can't relate, but I can empathize with your struggle somewhat. I actually got hemorrhoids twice.
So
Uh,
these it started with hemorrhoids. They were
right.
internal hemorrhoids though.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know. Initially, I had a GI bleed. I was just bleeding out my ass, and that happened several years ago, or started several years ago. Didn't know what the hell was going on. Finally, we figured out what was happening. It was hemorrhoids that are inside. Um, and then, like just over 3 weeks ago or whatever, they started acting up, and I started bleeding again, and the innies became outies, and it was all just a mess and
Mm.
painful and irritating. But um, then apparently one got infected, and it built up an abscess inside me, and so the doctor had to cut into me.
Mm.
Thankfully, my GP, before sending me to the surgeon, gave me a shot of morphine, seeing how much pain I was in. I could barely walk. I mean, just that was just from the hemorrhoids and the infection and whatnot. I could barely walk. I could, was hobbling and just miserable. Um, because the surgeon was like, oh, well, we can do this two ways. One, we can check you in. It'll take about 4 hours to get you checked in, and then we'll do the surgery and blah, blah, because I had to get a COVID test and then get checked in, then get prepped, then be put out, then have surgery. And so it would have been a big process. Or we can do it the easy way and just, take care of it right here real quick. It's like, well, fuck, sure, yeah, just take care of it right here real quick, right? You know, it's all in the marketing, isn't it? I'm here to tell you, don't fucking believe them. Get put out. Get put out. It was
Was it a laser surgery?
nope, nope. Just he gave
Steel shit. Like
yeah, as
all
far as I could
surgical
tell.
tools. Oh.
I didn't honestly I didn't see it. I was pretty by the point I got there I was pretty high on the morphine.
Yeah, but you can still smell blood, dude.
Well,
You could still
I
smell
didn't. The thing
iron.
is, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, it's not gonna be so bad. I got the morphine. He's gonna give me something else, and It's going to give me local shots. It'll be fine. Yeah. Even with the morphine, it was not fine. It was not fine at all.
Well, it's probably better that you did get it right away when you did. You know what I mean? Versus like you could have waited and there'd be more complications. Who knows, man?
Well, no, I wouldn't have waited like a week. It would have been. I would have waited like 4 hours before they could actually do the procedure.
Oh, only 4 hours.
Just, I mean, because you got to do the test and
Mm-hmm.
the COVID test or whatever, and anyhow, yeah. But I would have been put out, put under, whatever.
They would have gassed you, like at the dentist's office or some shit.
No, IV and intubated,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and honestly, as soon as the word intubate came out, that's when I was like, because all the people that died from COVID were intubated. Not all the people,
Well,
what I
that's
mean.
that's different though. When you're undergoing intubation is important because sometimes your diaphragm quits working for
I
reasons.
know, and I understand all that, but
Mm-hmm.
that was the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge. Like, okay, yeah, let's just take care of it right now. That on top of on top of the fact that I had the morphine in my system. Like, yeah, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Whatever. Yeah,
Right.
all right.
That sounds like you just wanted a notch in your man card.
Well, it was fuck
I
that,
was
dude.
I wasn't even out for it. I was feeling everything.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Even with that morphine's some great shit. Morphine's some really really amazing shit. But even that did not. I used to tease a buddy of mine who turned out had the same surgery. I mean, he never told me the specifics until afterwards. I used to tease him about it, and he agreed. The way I described it was it was like staring into the face of death itself and walking in through the gates of hell. I just it was the most painful and traumatic experience I've ever had in my entire life. Um, and
Are
I'm
you
very, very,
serious?
I'm absolutely serious.
So let me ask you this before you go any further. Have you had any other surgeries in your life?
I have not.
So this was like your first big surgery. Mm. But what about dental surgery? You had some wisdom teeth removed or some shit, right?
I did have supernumeraries removed, extra teeth,
And
extra canines growing.
you were out for that, but I mean, how was the
I
shit
was.
after that? Like, how was the
Afterwards, it was fine.
mm,
And that's the
mm.
thing. I thought, oh, well, dental surgery, they just give you a shot, put you out, no problem. I thought they could do the same thing, but no, 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 no.
Mm.
Afterwards, I mean, it still hurts and hurt quite a bit, but it was
We're talking about your
when it
ass
was
or your
being
teeth?
done,
Oh, your
I
ass.
could
Okay.
feel everything.
Well, you okay? And put
And
it this way: it's not. Did you feel it, or you just like? Okay, picture when you did when you got out of your dental surgery, right? You know how your mouth
mhm.
is numb, how you could just like you can feel yourself, like you can feel that, but you don't feel it. So when you say you can feel stuff being done, can you
Dude, I felt
feel
my
it?
soul being torn apart.
Okay.
It was the most unpleasant experience I have ever had.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. All right. So they they localized the area the best they could, which
And it did
to
not seem
me
like they did a very good fucking job.
I'm not a doctor, but usually when they localize shit, like they they really do. Like there should have been like some needles in your asshole, right? Like if they had to like cut some like right? I mean
Well, it's not technically in my asshole. It's like right on the taint, kinda, or to this. I don't
so
know. You
well
want a
that's
picture? I got a
well
picture of it.
no, I'm good. I mean I'm trying to understand like cuz like when I've had surgeries or realignments, like they usually give you one shot to get the one area that they really need to put the shot. So like when they were doing teeth work, they'd put a shot there, but they really wanted to get there, but they didn't want to hit that because there's a nerve back there. So they localize this area to get to where the nerve needs to be local, and then they hit, or they like put a shot in
The
here.
dental stuff is very different. The
Oh,
tissue is
I
different.
totally understand, and I've had my nose numb for when I broke my nose, and they had to fuck with my nose. But I'm just trying to picture like usually if they can't go ahead and localize that area, like especially when they fuck with people like like people when they're pregnant, and they don't straight go to the spine. They usually like localize an area next to the spine to get that nerve that they want to, you know, numb that shit up, right? So they just went straight to the taint and that was it.
Yep.
Mm. Mm.
I mean, if they was going through the full surgery, they
Mm-hmm.
could have, they would have put me out and whatnot. But
Yeah, I think you should have done that.
fucking A.
Hindsight is always 2020, but
Yeah, and in fact, when I went back for the checkup, um, a few days later, let's see, when I went for the checkup a few days later, we set another appointment another few days later to just make sure that everything was draining right, and that was when they're going to determine if I needed more surgery. And if we did, the doctor even was like, "Yeah, we're going to have to put you under if we do have to go in there again."
mm, wise choice.
Fuck. And it was, yeah. Literally, man. I can't. It's hard to describe. Just, have you ever made out with a demon and felt your soul being ripped apart? There you go. That's all I can kind
I
of.
mean, the worst surgery I had knee surgery. I actually had
But you were out for that.
I was. But you also got to remember there's not a lot of nerves in your knee to begin with. Your knee is a joint. I had a circumcision when I was old enough to like I was like 5 when I was circumcised. I had my nose reset. I had elbow surgery. The only surgery procedure I had where I was fully awake was eye surgery, and I was numb for that. You have to be awake, but the doctor tells me, he's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna smell like some burning. Don't be worried. That's not anything. That's not your eye burning." And I'm sure everybody's burned like their hair or their skin before, and you know what that smell is. So I'm sitting in a chair strapped down. They put the shit in my eyes to dilate them and numb them, and then they put these clamps in there to hold your eyes open. And as soon as he starts like the laser, like I don't see a laser.
Was that LASIK?
I had PRK. So PRK, they cut your oh my god, they cut the cornea. They cut the cornea in like a crescent, and they flip it open. And so they go, and they flip it open, and then they zap in your eye. And I hear popping, and I smell burning skin. And I'm like, yeah, this guy's full of shit. I don't feel a thing. And then, I mean, surgery took like 10, 15 minutes. And they put the shit back on, and then they put these contacts on, and I get out of the chair, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can fucking see. This is crazy. And they're like, yeah, put on these like roll glasses. The pain for me did not start until I left the hospital. When I got outside where there was actual sunlight, and this was like in February in Kansas, it's about noon. I like the fucking, even with the glasses on, like I wanted to rip my eyes out. Like I guess that's the closest I've ever been to your kind of pain, as far as procedures go. But those next 3 days, like I said, my asshole wasn't on fire or my taint or whatever. But I remember going back to my room and I had the painkillers, and this is like my first experience with painkillers. And I was just like, I took one and I drank a lot of water, and I was like laying down in my bed, and I was just like this, and I was like, oh my, and the army only gave me a week off, by the way. They only gave me 1 week off. So, and it was an army doctor that did my surgery. So I asked my roommate, he was just like, dude, what's wrong? It's like, I got this eye surgery, and this is what they gave me, and in my eye, I still hurt. And my roommate at the time, his past life, he was like a druggie, not a drug dealer. He just used a lot of drugs. And he like looks at it and he goes, dude, you're a big beefy guy. He's like, just double the dosage. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, man, just double the dosage. You'll be all right. So I took 2 pills, and I fucking fell asleep, just racked out. Woke up hours later. Couldn't even tell you what time it was. Cotton mouth. I peed. I drank a lot of water. I took 2 more, and I went to bed. And then I woke up the next day, and he went to the dining facility and got me some chow. But that was my cycle for 3 days. For 3 days, all I did was pop painkillers and drink water and pee. And on the 4th day, I had to finally take a shit. And I think that's what giving birth was like. because
So they gave you opiates like Vicodin or Oxy or something then.
it was like Tylenol threes or something. Tylenol
Yeah,
threes.
with codeine or
Yeah, I had codeine in it, and still my eyes fucking hurt. And then to this day, like when I was younger, I used to be outside when I was a kid, and when I was in the army before I had surgery, I would just put sunglasses on and I'd be fine, or I wouldn't even wear sunglasses and I was fine. But my first deployment, I didn't wear sunglasses too much, and I just wanted to be cool, to look cool. But dude, after that, I've always needed sunglasses because the light is a lot brighter. But that was probably the most extreme pain I have ever been in regards to, like I didn't feel a thing, but the next 3 days was, yeah, I really wanted to rip my eyeballs out. Like it was that painful, and then from that day on, I learned that like painkillers. I don't know how people abuse painkillers. I don't. I just know that okay, they feel great, they put me to sleep, but dude, I cannot shit. Like I get backed up. And this last surgery I had with my elbow, I came home, I was fine, and then an hour later, like it just fucking hurt. And I took the recommended painkillers the first day, and then I didn't shit for like 2 days, and I was done. After that, I was just done. So, but how
well,
many?
I didn't have that problem because I had antibiotics. I was on antibiotics for 2 weeks straight, and um, those just totally fucked up my system and
Oh yeah, because then you just got the fucking runs, right? You kill all that
pretty close to
bacteria
that. Yeah,
in your gut and shit.
yeah.
Mm. What kind of antibiotics did they give
They were
you?
going to actually give me Vicodin or something like that, but I had raised the objection, or not the objection, but the concern that hey, the thing that started this whole thing was the hemorrhoids, and I don't want to stop myself up and then have to
Mm-hmm.
force that and agitate that again.
So you had the
So they
same
gave me
issue,
something else.
because
Well,
not everybody has that issue, which
I haven't had that issue from those, but I know that they can contribute to that.
Mhm.
In retrospect, I would have taken the Vicodin because now knowing what the antibiotics did, the Vicodin would definitely been more of a painkiller.
Mhm.
And instead of laying in bed for 3 weeks, um, miserable and watching TV, I would have been in bed for 3 weeks asleep,
Mhm.
just because it would have knocked me out and whatnot.
Mm.
Wife would have pushed me out of bed when I was, shit in the bed or something.
Chocolate Lake.
So,
That's
but yeah,
crazy.
it was nuts. It's been a crazy couple weeks.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's been a pretty crazy couple weeks. That It was that Monday after our last recording was when I went to the doctor and was told that you need to go in for the surgery. So
Well, I hope you get well soon at some point.
I do too. I'm sure my wife does as well because
I was
bless
about
her
ready
heart,
to
man,
say
she's been a saint putting up with my bullshit and taking care of me and whatnot.
I'm gonna be a misogynist for a minute, just a minute. What do I mean a minute?
She'll
Maybe
kick
like
your ass, dude.
5. No, no, nothing about her personally. Like like even my mom, like growing up, like anybody I've been around where I've had like the flu a couple times. I usually have like seasonal allergies, like hay fever kind of shit, or whenever I get sick, and I'm just like, oh my god, just fucking kill me, just kill me, just. And then everybody, all the women in my life, they're just like, oh, you're just a pussy, man. You're a wuss. And now that I'm a little older, I'm like, well, why is this? Why is this? I've stabbed myself with things. I've stabbed. I've almost lost a finger. I've had some very acute injuries, but like when it comes to like chronic illnesses, like I'm, I guess like generalization wise, like men are just weak when it comes to that. And the conclusion I came to is that women usually deal with that a lot more than men. So, they're used to like that being sick for 5 to 7 days, you know what I mean? So they got a leg up on me. So I don't feel too bad that when I get sick I'm a giant fucking pillow. But, I mean, all things being equal, like maybe if I went through that kind of training since I was like 10 or 12, then maybe getting sick or dealing with a surgery wouldn't be as bad, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, God,
So
God,
so
God bless your wife. She's a saint. We all know
while
this.
I was laying in bed watching TV, and I did find some interesting shows, but man, oh man, oh man, I'm ready to be able to be up and about.
Mm, me
But
too. I'm ready for you to get your lazy ass up, start working.
fuck, fucking a, the good times. I just am done with TV. But so while I was laid up in bed watching TV, you were off gallivanting across the country going to funerals and shit.
Yeah, yeah. My grandmother, my last grandparent, my dad's side, passed away at 93. Backstory: her husband, my grandfather, died. He died when he was like, I think he was like 71 or something. So she had been a widow for almost 20 years, more than 20 years. But, and we went up, like, we were in Texas when that funeral happened, and we went up, uh, I want to say I was in like fifth grade. I think that's when it was. So it was fifth grade during the school year. So the school had just started. It was in August. So he had to drive up there, and he was buried in a veteran cemetery in near Bismarck, which is the capital of North Dakota. So uh, he died of a heart attack, and then she subsequently lived on for 20 plus years. Uh, and like she had 8 kids. She had 4 boys, 4 girls. She had 20 grandkids, and she had 14 grandchildren. And she saw every single one of them. You know, I don't have as many pictures with her because we moved down here to Texas, but I have so many like things like birthday cards. Probably go back and read those at some point. She gifted me a lot of. She sewed, she crocheted, she knitted, she did all that shit. She was a very devout Catholic. Um, I like I very rarely in life do you say you get to meet a saint. That woman was a saint.
Were you at a Catholic church for the service?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, just a backstory, like how badass this woman is. So obviously she had 8 kids. That's pretty badass, right? First kid she had was like in the 50s. So, last kid she had was 69. So she had, you know, 8 kids. Her husband was in World War II, my grandfather. And I think about 15 years ago she had breast cancer. She beat that. She had both of her breasts removed. Um, and I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. She had been kind of, doing some weird stuff. Like, I think, like it was getting there. So the relatives that were up there decided to put her in a nursing home, which nobody wants to be in a nursing home, but it was better for her because at this point they all had kids and grandkids that they had to look after. And so while she was in the nursing home recently, um, she adapted. She was making friends. She was playing pinochle and canasta and all. She played a lot of card games, but she broke her hip. And breaking a hip at that age, like in your 90s, is almost a death sentence. But she got the hip replacement or fixed or whatever happened. And then, like a week after that, she got COVID. And then she beat COVID. So she survived breast cancer, survived a hip surgery, survived COVID. And then a couple weeks after that, she re injured her hip. And then she got sepsis. And at that point, like everybody was just kind of like, let's just give her some medication because sepsis is it's a bacterial infection in your blood, so it's a lot harder to fight. You know, it, it could end up anywhere in your body. So they were just kind of like, well, let's just medicate her and make her comfortable, you know. Um, and then I guess my aunt that was taking care of her, she was a nurse. She's retired from nursing, but she does like clinicals at the nursing college. And she said that like she had this dream at this time, and then she went to go see and grandma was passed, right? And my dad said he woke up the same time. Didn't have a dream, but he woke up the same time. And one of the other aunts said that she woke up the same time. And it was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I didn't wake up that time, but and so I carpooled with my dad. I drove down to San Antonio, but I wanted to, my grandma, like, little known story is my grandma is she's not my real grandma, so I'm actually adopted. And for being an adopted grandkid, like, she treated me just like any other grandkid she had. Um, in fact, the last time I saw her was when I went up for my other cousin's wedding. So I went up to North Dakota when I was in Virginia to see one cousin married. I went up again to see another cousin married. And when I was there, like, she was still living in her house. And I had this really, really rare hockey jersey from one of the schools, one of the colleges up there. And I gave it to her. I was like, oh, it's going to get cold up here soon, Grandma. Here you go, wear this. And it's a hockey jersey. And she was just like, thank you. And then she handed me like another one of her quilted creations. And I was just like, oh, these mean so. Like, I have a blue jean quilt downstairs I've had since 1991, where she signed it and put "She Loved Me" on there and everything. And that's very, it's very sentimental to me. So
We don't get that kind of grandma craftsmanship anymore these days.
no, you don't. You really
The
don't.
grandmas now are like, well, shit, I'm a grandfather. I don't fucking quilt. So we just don't have that handcrafted
Mm-hmm. And
heirlooms.
I've got I've got a quilt, a small quilt up here. I got a big quilt downstairs. I got an Afghan downstairs, and I've got a crocheted blanket up here. And then I've got like a box full of birthday cards I started collecting ever since I was like 14. So every birthday card I ever got, whether I was 14 or I was 30 something, I have it in a box, as well as pictures. But yeah, you don't. I went up there. I drove down to link up with my dad, and we drove from San Antonio up to North Dakota. And then we got there, and we stayed in a nice hotel. And we had the viewing on Monday. So Monday we went to the funeral home, and I had not seen my grandma since 6 years ago, but they did a really good job. You know, they did a really good job. I don't know, like, I guess making it presentable. I've done a lot of funerals in the military, and I've been to a couple of funerals from family members, but she looked very at peace, and she looked great, and so we went in at like 1:30, and then we went to my aunt's and ate and drank, and then we came back at like 6, and then they closed the casket, and we went home, and then we went to the Catholic Church. And
Well, I don't know if you were recording when we were first started talking about this. One of the things I didn't realize it was at a Catholic church. Catholic churches, they don't typically open the casket there
oh, they don't.
at the service.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Catholic rites, they usually do not open at the church.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was a Catholic service. My whole
So,
that
so like stand, sit, stand, sit. They're up, down, up, down, up, down.
mhm.
Spread germs.
No
Snack
germs.
time.
We all, well, that's the funny thing. I'm not Catholic. Her
Well,
she,
I'm just remembering the Catholic services. It was
oh
like snack. I just remember snack time was when it was time for me to start getting things ready to go. That meant I had about 10 minutes.
oh, right, getting the hearse ready. Yeah. yeah. Um, the no, it was about a 2 hour service. It was about. Actually, I lied. It was about an hour and 15. I'm sorry. We were waiting for the service. Like they said, the service would start at 10, so we got there like 9:30, but it didn't actually start till about 10:15, 10:20. But yeah, they had the service, and her whole family is Catholic, with the exception of my dad. I don't think he's Catholic. I think he's you know he's not agnostic, but he's not Catholic. He kind of phased out of that once he got out of the Navy, I think. But yeah, and I dressed up. I was hoping that one of my I had two other cousins that are in the military. I have cousin that's in the Army Reserve and a cousin that's in like the Navy Reserve, and neither one of them could make it out. So I was the only one there dressed up. But we carried the casket from the hearse. Uh, we carried it from. It was already there. It was already set up. No, no, we carried it in. We did. We carried it in and we carried it out, and then we, you know, convoyed up to the veterans cemetery where her husband was buried, and then we carried it out of the hearse into like a smaller ceremony, which I've seen several times because I've done a lot of military services. Where
You did the honor guard stuff?
I've done it. I did it twice. I did it when I was in Kansas, and I did it again when I was in Virginia. So you know, I've never done like when you were talking about when you're talking to Taha about like, because I mean, obviously you've done way more than me, but I've never done a Jewish ceremony. I've never done a Muslim ceremony. They've all been Christian, but it was you have Baptist, and then you have Catholic, and then you have Protestant. Um, and I don't necessarily pay attention to like depending on what the service was. You have like full service honors, and you have abbreviated service honors. Um, and in these cases, they were all caskets. I've never done a service for an urn. Um, and so I've had services where when I was in Kansas, there was a couple times that there were no pallbearers, so we actually had to carry the casket out, and there were times where there was already pallbearers from the family, so they did that, and all we did was like we do the 21 gun salute, we would help fold the flag, we would do the taps, march out
It's
and
not
stuff.
21 guns though, unless you have the full complement. Usually, it's just the three batteries,
Well, no, it's the way it is now. The way it is now by the regs, there's no. It's seven guns, three shots, and um,
see
you know,
the only like high up people ever got seven soldiers out there to do that.
mm,
Um,
it depends on the
the
VA,
ones I've done.
because the Veteran Affairs Services are the ones that would call us and tell us what kind of service it was. And like I said, we would practice full service, full funeral honors. And when I was at Riley, it was a 9-man team. And then when I was in Virginia, it was a 7-man team. So you would have to like do everything and then go out to your rifles. 8-man team. It was a 10-man team with one NCOIC, and then at this point we're all NCOs. So then it was like a 8-man team. The only person that didn't really participate was the bugler. The bugler would stand out to the side, and play the taps. But if it was abbreviated, then there was no salute. So that was just a 3-man team. So there would be a bugler, and there would be two guys to fold the flag. And folding a flag, uh, with two people, and you have the ceremonial gloves on. That's very hard, especially because a lot of like some of that makes it harder, makes it more difficult because the flag, the kind of fabric. So if you have like a cotton flag, that's like a little bit more expensive. There are a couple funerals where it was abbreviated funeral and they had like a nylon flag, and those are a lot harder to fold because they slip, they don't grip. But yeah, I've done both types of services, and what it is by the regulations, it's 7 guns with 3 fires.
I received one that we usually had three people with the rifles.
Hmm.
Um, they the and granted they were short staffed all the time, so they were might
This
have
was
been
in
cutting corners.
California.
Yeah.
Hmm.
and they would do the three batteries, but I think only a few times did they have seven people there for that, and that they were for, I had one where he was a colonel who had passed, and I had did a service for, oh man, someone who, I don't know. I did a lot of stuff with the national cemeteries. In fact, I still get their emails.
Hmm.
Um, but and I did a lot of stuff with the indigent veterans as well, and worked with a local VA somewhere with all my funeral stuff. I got boxed up a award they gave me because I
Mm.
did so much work with them, where I'd come out and volunteer my time and try to help them. Um, just do right by the veteran. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, he still served his country and still deserves military honors, and by God, we're going to give it to him, whether he can have the full other rest of the things as well.
Hmm.
So
I
so I work with him a lot, and even one time I had I was presented the flag because there's no family members there to accept it, and the person who was coordinating the event, or like his power of attorney, he wanted the flag and he wanted that his friend to have that honor still, but
hmm.
there was nobody there. Literally, I was the only person there for the funeral. um, and so military honors came. Basically that was the only part of the service, just placing an urn in a little vault, and so they had to have somebody receive it, so they presented it to me, and I packed it up and shipped it to his power of attorney.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Let's see if I could tilt my camera up. That up there on top of my bookshelf, that is my grandfather's colors, my mom's side. So that he passed away when I was in school for job training. So I was in Huntsville, Alabama, and he passed away. And my mom could not make it to the funeral. That was in North Carolina, and my aunt was there, and she received the colors. And uh, then my mom got them from her, and then my mom's in a nursing home now. So my dad said, rightfully I should get the colors. So I've had his colors for about 8 months, and I was a little upset. I remember the funeral. I did not dress up for the. Excuse me. I did dress up for the funeral. I didn't have a choice, but I was not actually involved in the funeral. I mean, I was a rookie. I had never been in a funeral service. The guy's doing the funeral. I remember that funeral. He passed away in, like, I want to say like April or May, and that funeral was like sweltering. Like it was a very hot occasion. Like the guys were doing the certain, like, they're in the full wool uniform and they are just sweating, but they are just like stoic and folding the flag and saluting. You know what I mean? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, how am I supposed to be like those guys? And then, contrary to them, most of the funeral services I did, it was just cold. It was like one time, it was just extremely cold. It was like snowing really badly. Uh, so one funeral service, true story. I got a couple. I guess I'll tell a couple. So we don't actually play the bugle. There's like a little
is the MP3 player in the horn?
in the cornet or bugle,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. So um, we did. Now we practiced all the time. So we were detached from our unit. So our place of duty was like the head guy would say, okay, I need teams 1 and 4 practicing for a funeral, 2 funerals on Friday. So we come in and we would practice. We'd practice full. We'd practice abbreviated. And so one funeral, um, we went to, like, I was normally the bugle guy on abbreviateds, just because they for some reason, like they're like we talk about racist or sexist, like they're heightist. I'm not exactly the tallest guy, so they always wanted like the taller guys. Whatever, cool. So I already knew this stuff on how to hold the bugle and everything, but like there was a guy they swapped out because some guy had a death in his family, so he had to go do that. So they brought in another guy, and the easiest job to do is to play the fucking bugle. You know what I mean? Like you just it's already set because it plays taps, it plays the reveille, it plays the retreat. So like, or you know what I mean? Like so, you know, right? When the flag comes up, and then when so that we make sure that the shit is set on when it has to be set on, and we just tell them like, yeah, just stand here at attention, and then this is the cue. And we even go with the funeral director. He tells us what's going on. We get a brief from him. We show up like 2 hours early, and so we understand what's going on. And then we try to place our weapons. And so at this point, like, I'm just shooting the weapon, and the hard part about shooting the weapon is because it's a 21 gun salute. There's 3 shots from 7 rifles, and you have to practice to pull the trigger at the same time. That's the hardest part. Is so you hear just one loud bang, and then everybody chambers, and then bang, and then bang, and then and then right. So the guy that's playing the bugle, we were like, this is the easiest job you can ever do, and we take this seriously. I mean, we don't know Joe, we don't know Sally. We just know they served their country just like you said, and they deserve, whether it's abbreviated or full. So we had a full service. We had a last minute change to the roster, and so we get everything going. And when the funeral starts, because when we come out, there's already the awning set up, the chairs are set up, so we know how we're approaching the march. We know that we're shooting the rifles, and then once we put down the rifles, then we turn, we make a correct facing movement, and then we all march behind, and we know that we're gonna like zigzag to help fold the flag. So once the flag is folded, which the flag takes the longest part to fold because you do not want to fuck that up. You don't want to fuck it up, and you sure as hell don't want to have to unfold the flag because you get to the point where you're going to tuck the flag in. If you don't have enough flap to tuck it in, you have to unfold the flag and pull it. It's just, that's pretty stressful. So we get done, and we all step away, and it's time for the dude to play taps. But it was raining, bro. It was raining, and this dude, I can't blame him, but it's common sense. I told him how to hold the bugle. You have to hold your glove hand, hold the bugle with the the mouthpiece up, the bugle down. And for some reason he had it like here, and rain got in it, so when he started to play it, it fucking died. It fucking died. And that was a really, really bad.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, dude. Like if it's bad enough, people will call and they'll tell the VA, and then the VA will call and tell some commander somewhere, and then we'll get yelled at. It doesn't affect your career, but I don't, like you said, you want to pay respects. The other thing,
yeah, and that's like one of the last memories that the family's having of that loved one.
Mm-hmm. The guns went off great. The flag was folded excellently, but the fucking taps didn't get played. It played like 10 seconds in, and it fucking died because the water shorted out the circuits in the little thing. There was another funeral. This was when I was in Riley, and most of the funeral, like every funeral I've ever done, it was an old guy, World War II, Vietnam, veteran period. I think the youngest that I've done, besides the one I'm going to tell you, I think the youngest was the guy was like 50 something, but the guy had like a lot of health problems. Still young, but you're used to doing guys in like their 70s and 80s. And this one, we weren't given a lot of specifics. We were just told that it was an active duty soldier, and then we found out it was a female. And then we found out that like there was a whole bunch of fucking brass from Fort Bragg coming down. Fort Bragg's in North Carolina, and we're like, yo, what the fuck? Uh, so it was like a really low key funeral, and it comes to find out, it was the saddest funeral any of us had done. You know, like normally during the like before the funeral, like the pregame, straight faces on, and then we do the funeral, game faces on, and then after the funeral, we get in our van and then we drive back to home station and we're joking and smoking. We'll stop and get some chips, get a soda or something, and then we'll just get in our cars and go back to our rooms and wait for the next hit time. But like we just knew it was active duty, and there was a lot of people from Fort Bragg coming, and come to find out, it was this specialist. This specialist was the specialist was murdered by her boyfriend.
Mm.
Yeah, so this guy basically had like an affair with his wife with this other soldier, and he got her pregnant, and she was going to keep the kid, and he didn't like that. So when she started to in process at Fort Bragg, he showed up to her hotel room and he strangled her, and she was pregnant with his kid. That guy, you know, if you want to, you can go read up on that. But that funeral, I can say that was the funeral. That would be the one where I actually shed a tear. That's the funeral where, after the service, like the family, you know, they didn't want any cameras. They didn't want anybody to know. Like she was from somewhere, but they wanted her buried in Kansas. And after the funeral, they're like, look, you know, we know you know, because I think there was a couple other people in her family that they're like, you know, we just want you to sit down and eat with us. So we just sat down and we ate with them in complete silence. And then we got in the van and we just drove back to Fort Riley, and nobody fucking talked the entire time. You know, I think she was like 24, dude. It's
Yeah,
just,
that's gonna be a tough one.
dude, that was tough for everybody. And the chaplain that came out from Fort Bragg, he was like some lieutenant colonel. He gave everybody like a, you know, those. It's like something that you put on your dog tags. It was like it was like a little medallion, like Saint Michael. I guess he's the archangel of paratroopers, and Fort Bragg is the home of airborne. So I still have that in my memory box to this day. It was just a very sad funeral. So I I at the opportunity, I wanted to pay respects to my grandma. More importantly, my grandfather. I wasn't the army wasn't even a consideration in my mind when my grandfather passed away, and he had served in the army during World War II, and so I wanted to try to get everybody that was in the military to pay respects, but they couldn't make it out for reasons. So, but to me, like it was more of a rejoiceful thing. I told my chain of command, my officers, they were like, "Oh, we were so sorry," when the Red Cross message came through. I was like, "Nah, we were just waiting." And sometimes things happen for a reason. If she had died any earlier, I wouldn't have been able to go. The army would not let me go because of COVID. And the drive up there was very little snow, and the drive back there was very little snow. So it was like I guess you could call it a coincidence, or something faith related. A higher being making sure that you did what you needed to do. But it was a really great service. She was a really great woman, and this is the first time she got to spend Christmas with her husband in a long time. So we were all happy. A few of my relatives cried, but you know, but yeah. I mean, you know better than anybody. You've done a lot more than I have. I've only done, was it about 8 months, and another 4 or 5 months. I've only done like a year of funeral honors, but mm,
I will say, man, the Navy had the Army beat as far as looking sharp. The dress whites when they do the service, when they do the honors.
oh, the Cracker Jacks.
Yes, with the officers when they have they're pretty sharp.
Oh, the officers. Well, the officers normally only do the lead position. You still have the
Right,
enlisted that actually like
right,
fold the flag, and
yeah, but still, in the dress whites, I think they always look sharper,
well,
especially out there with in a green field on a spring day.
the army doesn't wear the green uniform anymore.
Not the blue, isn't it?
It's blue now, but like when you were doing it, we were still in greens.
Yeah, that's true. Those were green.
I even have the greens. I have them in my closet at my dad's house. I should probably
The
snag those.
Marines were the other one. I mean,
The Marines
the Marine
always
blue.
look sharp. Yeah,
Yeah,
the blue top with the the brown pants.
but still, I always like the dress whites. The officers dress whites for the Navy when they're doing the presentation.
I mean, you like it until they get dirty.
Yeah, I'm
uh,
just telling you from the observer's point of view.
I will
When
say,
they came out, when they came out, my when my grandfather died, they weren't going to do certain, any honors and stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so I started making calls myself,
what did
and
he
I just
serve in? I'm sorry,
Navy,
he was Navy.
Navy, Pacific,
Mhm.
um, and I had all the fax numbers and all the places I needed to contact for it anyway. The family, the immediate family wasn't just going to do the normal kind of service, and it was they'd already done the cremation, so it was memorial after the fact. Um, and I was like, no, fuck that, we're going to have honors, and so I got it, and they normally because he wasn't as high a ranked, wouldn't have gotten the rifles, but
Mm-hmm.
I managed to convince the team. It was in the evening. They weren't busy. They're always going to be sitting around doing nothing anyway. Come on out anyway, and they did. So they did the whole full rifle drill and everything. And I have his flag. It was presented to uh, his wife, who's not my grandmother, but you know what I mean. You know how it goes. His second wife. But I have his flag, but that was kind of because I just brought a flag up with me, stuffed it in the case. Oh, hey, I've got a case from the car here, and I swapped them out. So I cheated a little bit. I have the shell casings from the rifle in the flag.
That's why I was mad. There were no when I unfolded my grandfather's colors to refold them, so they fit better in that. Because when they got it. They handed it to my aunt in like a vinyl plastic sleeve,
Yeah.
and I think
Oh, they
either
shouldn't do that.
well, that's what they did. So they had been in there for years.
Well, no,
So
they're supposed to present it to them straight. The sleeve is after the fact.
well, right, okay. The sleeve is what the funeral home gave her. Okay.
Right.
So when I took it out to with my when I got my dad here and we unfolded it and I was gonna fold it up so it fit in there because after like so many years it and there were no shell casings in there. They normally put 3 shell casings in there. That's what we normally do. We put 3 in there. We tuck it in with the flag. And they weren't in there. So I think either my aunt is lying or she lost them because I don't think the army would do that.
Well, I never had any of the services where the people from the military would put the shell casings in. Usually, they would, at most they would scoop up the casings and give them to me as a funeral director, and then I would give them to the
Mm.
family separately.
Well, we put them in there. If we did a full service with rifles, we would put them in there. If not, but like um no, I was gonna tell you though, like, because you got me thinking. Like, I'm sure the Navy's great, and I'm sure that was back in the '90s. But like, if you want to talk about like a drill team, like the Marines, hands down, have the best drill team. I don't know about funeral services. That remains to be seen. But I think the Army. I mean, obviously, the Army is in charge of the old guard, which you are very well familiar of, and there are a lot of videos on the tube you could check out. Like I have never seen like people so solemn, so stoic, so respectful as people in the old guard. You know, those guys that pull patrol on the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Hmm.
Yeah, like it's fucking raining, it's snowing, it's hailing.
It's
I
100 degrees outside and humid.
Did you see the video where the guy, you know, so the sergeant comes to relieve, the guy on duty, and then he inspects him, he steps, And then, he takes the rifle, he takes the M1, and he's like looking at it, and then he does a spin, and he did a spin to do the full inspection, and the rifle slipped, and that rifle has a bayonet on it. That fucking bayonet went through that dude's fucking shoe and stabbed him in the foot, and he picked the fucking rifle out of that guy's, and the dude didn't even flinch, shit like that. And then I've seen a couple other clips on there where there's people, they're doing the photography and they're talking, and the guy like stops patrolling and he turns to the crowd and he says, blah blah blah. I forget how he addressed the crowd, but he's like, I request silence in the tomb of the unknown soldier, and everybody shuts the fuck up. I haven't seen where people keep talking. I would imagine that security would haul them out, but yeah, I don't know. I've never seen a naval service.
Didn't we when we went to Arlington? Because I remember when you and I were running around DC that time. We went to Arlington once, didn't we? Together?
Yeah, we toured a little bit of DC, but I've been up there 2 other times. You remember we did a couple things, and then
I know. We went to. I remember going to Arlington. I remember because I had one of my services was shipped over to Arlington for final interment, and so I wanted to track that location down, and.
No, you were the first person I went to Arlington with, because we went up and you were like looking in there's like a computer, you can like look stuff up, you can look to see who's interred there. Yeah, we went up there, but I don't think anything crazy happened while we were there. But I was just amazed at how beautiful, how big it was. Obviously, if you really want to know how big something is, go look at the Vietnam Wall. Like, you're just like, oh, okay, I'll go look at it. Not like disrespectfully, but you're just like, the names are like this big and the wall is fucking huge, and it's just like, well, like if you think about it,
because it adds perspective when you're actually there.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and then we went to the Korean War Memorial. We went to the Lincoln Monument. But I mean,
and that was when they were in that shutdown too, right?
Mm-hmm. That's one of the times. So we're just kind of like walking around barriers, like, who's gonna stop us?
Yeah, the government shut down. They're not paying the cops to come run us off.
Yeah. And
the barrier, you just like any fucking government action. They put the barrier on the walkway, but you just take a half step to the left and you walk on the grass around that barrier and keep going.
Yeah, I went there with my dad, and it was his first time there. And I had my mom and my dad went, and then I went there with somebody else. It wasn't you; it was somebody else I went with. But I went up there 3 times. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's you have these people that fight. Some fight and die. Some don't fight, but they serve. And they all do it so people can tell us how great communism and socialism are. It's like time.
You know what? I will say that over the past several weeks, I hadn't been feeling well, so I've been off social media, haven't reading the news, and my God, it's been beautiful.
Well, you missed a lot. I mean, like 2 weeks in this year is like 8 months. You missed like eight months. Well, no, for real. Like, look at how much shit has happened this year. In this year,
what's happened since Thanksgiving? Bring me up to speed. I need to know.
What happened since Thanksgiving? A lot of Trump lawsuits, a lot of Supreme Court rejections. Stimulus bill was passed today. Government shutdown is still looming. You got a Georgia runoff for the Senate. You have the COVID.
Well, the Georgia runoff was before Thanksgiving.
No. The early voting is still going on, but like you have the
but I know, but that was before Thanksgiving when that runoff was going to happen.
No. The runoff doesn't happen until the actual election date is January.
Right.
2nd or 4th.
But they were talking about that and campaigning for that prior to.
Right, but early voting has started. So
gotcha.
And then you have Texas brought up a lawsuit. So you had the Trump team, and then you had Texas and some states, like 17 other states, and a few hundred Republican representatives from the House of Representatives. The COVID vaccines going out.
I ain't getting it.
You got the Hunter Biden shit going on, which magically everybody decides is important conveniently. I mean, there's so many things.
Did I call it? Did I call it?
Did you call what?
The Hunter shit. I told you.
Oh,
It's going to be a non-issue until after the election. Then it's going to be a big deal, and Biden's going to end up resigning to take care of his family, and then Kamala's going to be the president.
I mean, Kamala taking over as president. I'll be honest. I know you're a libertarian, and I've actually been talking about you a lot. I know. Like you've been like sitting there.
You've missed me, big boy.
I do to some extent. I can't get too much of you, but I can't. There is like I haven't had enough of you. So I do talk about you. Nothing bad. Nothing bad. This is exactly what I say about you. I was like, well, I have 3 libertarian friends. I have one that I work with, and I have one that I've gamed with and vacation around the world with, and I have another that I've only known through the internet, which is the other guy, right? I was like, so I have one guy, he's so libertarian, he's like almost anarchist. Who would that be?
Me?
That would be you. I have another libertarian friend. He thinks he's a libertarian, but he just hasn't admitted that he's actually a fucking like a neoliberal. And, like the most obvious issue, like if I were to sit here and attack him, I'd be like, okay, well, what's your view on COVID? Oh, we need to lock down. I'm like, well, that's not what a true libertarian would say. A true libertarian would not be like, we need to lock down for everybody's safety. A true libertarian would be like, yo, I'm an American. I have rights. Fuck you. Everybody else take care of yourselves. That's what a true libertarian would say. I'm sorry. But so, he's like, I voted libertarian. I voted for Joe Jorgensen. And I'm just kind of like, I didn't say anything, but I was just like, all right, well, you keep telling yourself that you're...
Is that the individual that...
Yes. So that individual voted for George Jorgensen, and at the same time, that individual...
Well, I appreciate the vote for Joe Jorgensen. I still think he's a putz, but go on.
And then I have another guy that's like somewhere in the middle. I'm not saying he's one way your way or one way the other way. I'm actually trying to get him on the show. His name's Chris. So I'm trying to get Chris to, download Discord and spend a Sunday evening, talking about his libertarian views. Not the contrary to yours, but like we have you, and we all know what your views are, and we don't know what the other guy's views are, because if we actually invited him on the show, like I might actually just have to like fucking turn my camera off and, mute myself and just go in the other room and just be like, it's like almost like watching a heavyweight fight where there's just knockouts after.
You're not a real libertarian unless you're called not a real libertarian.
Well, that's the funny thing is he sends me a lot of libertarian memes where libertarians aren't like they're attacking. He's like basically every meme that he's shown me about libertarians, aside from like, a couple that were like talking shit about Trump or Biden, like they were just libertarians attacking other libertarians. And it was just like, wow. He's like, no, that's what it's like,
It is.
So,
It is.
but like I said, like, so I like, I was even telling my dad. He's a Democrat. He's a liberal, and I'm like, yeah, I got 2 libertarian friends. I don't talk about the middle guy because that's just not interesting, right? I was like, one guy is so libertarian, he's almost an anarchist. And you have the other one who's convinced himself he's a libertarian, but he's actually a neoliberal. Like, if he was a classic liberal, I could kind of be like, okay, all right, but he's not. Like, there's nothing about him that's...
He's an authoritarian. If he believes in shutting down and locking down and stuff like that, that's an authoritarian. If he believes in enforcing using authority over others to enforce things, that is an authoritarian position.
Right, and I agree more with what you say. Like, even though we get into it, I agree with more what you say than what he says. And to what that suggests to me is that even though you have conservatism and you have, libertarianism and you have liberalism, right? Like, let's just call liberalism leftism for the time being, because there's no classical liberals anywhere in the fucking government at all. Classic
Just
liberalism,
mash.
yeah, it's dead. I don't care what anybody says, but if you're not a leftist, then you're gonna get fucking primaried. That's kind of how it looks. But I agree with you on probably out of 10 issues, I probably agree with you on about 6 to 7. You know what I mean? As
So
as as you
you don't agree about taxation as theft. Let me see if I can think of the ones.
whoa 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 whoa
Taxation.
whoa whoa slow down. But what I'm saying is, when I look at, and because like my whole spiel, whatever, is that I don't care what platform you're running on. I just want my constitutional rights. You know what I'm saying? So, if one party can guarantee me that, well, okay, out of your first 10 amendments, we can guarantee that you'll keep 8. I'm gonna roll my eyes, and the other party says, well, we'll give you 3. I don't care if the 3 was who and the 8 was who. I'm probably gonna vote for the guy that's gonna give me 8 out of 10. I would rather have 10 out of 10, to make it simplistic, but that's how I vote. That's how I think about shit, and but
You
I
pick
agree
the
with
lesser of two evils.
that's the only thing I can do until I run for office. And then I run for office, and then I turn down all the fucking money, and then I lose my first reelection bid. That's how it's gonna go. But the other guy, like, I agree with him on maybe like 2 out of 10, and that's being generous. And that's just because it's like, and like you and I said, it's like we're, he's like Brian off of Family Guy. That's what it's like. So at least my dad, even though he's,
So he sucks his own dick too.
who, my dad?
No, the other
I mean,
other extreme of the
he's
libertarian.
he's got a pretty big cock. I've seen it a couple times. He'd probably do that. No, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I don't agree with you on everything. Like, the one thing I was thinking of was the most recent podcast we were having. We were talking about drugs, and like your view on drugs and my view on drugs. I didn't agree with you on everything. There are a couple things I was like, yeah, okay, blah blah blah. Like, I totally agree with medicinal use of LSD and acid and marijuana, but and like, yeah, legalize or decriminalize. We talk about legalizing versus decriminalizing, and you're like, decriminalize everything. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, that's So, like, I agree with you on more things than I disagree with you on, and the other guy I disagree with way more than I agree with. So what that brings me, not saying I'm the perfect conservative and not saying you're the perfect libertarian, but that makes me feel, at least based off of that interaction, and seconded by the guy that I work with, who's like in between you and the other guy, we agree on a lot of things, is that, like, conservatism and libertarianism, they're not the same thing, but they're a lot more similar. And this is based off of, if A is more equal to B than C is equal to B, then A and B must be more equal to each other than to C, kind of thing. That just kind of tells me that your point of view and my point of view are more aligned than the other point of view. Like, because libertarianism is actually like a more right wing form of liberalism. Would you agree? Like, liberalism essentially is like less conservative.
Libertarianism is similar to, like, true classic liberalism, which
Correct.
is
Correct.
do your own shit,
Correct.
leave everybody else alone,
Correct. But like I
and leave
said,
me
there
alone.
are no classic liberals nowadays, at least in the elected elected officials.
Justin Amash
Yeah.
is the only one.
So what I'm saying is, like, at least from conservatism as a popular view, like, as far as, I'm not talking about elected officials, I guess. I guess what I'm talking about is the way I look at things. I look at things from a constitutionality thing. Taxes, I'd have to read up on the Constitution and see where the taxes are, to see where that falls, and then it doesn't fall in the Constitution specifically, so then that's delegated down to the state, which is why you left one state and moved to another. Kudos to you, sir. But I try to, like, I want as many of my rights protected. I want my rights, not my privileges. I want my rights protected.
How the fuck do we start talking about politics? I haven't thought about politics in 3 weeks, and it's been beautiful.
Oh, you told me to bring you up to speed.
Oh,
but
I guess.
But no, that's pretty much what's happened in the past couple weeks. I mean, Uh, we just had the electoral college cast their votes, and pretty soon we will have
Oh yeah, I
Congress.
guess that's official then, huh?
Well, it's official, but it's not official. It's not official until Congress, certifies the votes. So then they drop them in a box in a ceremony at Congress, and then Congress will at some point go through and they will see if there's any objections. So that should be interesting to see
Oh
if there are
boy.
any objections. But here's the thing: is like before that is going to be the senatorial race in Georgia, two
So
senators. Hmm?
when is all this going to happen? The official certification.
Certification happens after the senatorial race. That's all I know. I got a lot of things going on, but the election for the senators, I think it's the 2nd of January. That's when
When's the inauguration supposed to be?
the 20th. So
Okay, so I need to stay. What I need to do is I need to stay in bed until the 20th, until the 21st,
to the you know
and just ride this out.
let me ask you a hypothetical question. So let's say everything as it appears to be, Joe Biden becomes the president. Okay, let's just assume that happens, right?
That's probably what's going to happen. Go on.
Okay, so let's say in one scenario nothing much changes. Let's just say nothing much changes. That's not interesting at all. But in this other scenario, things radically change. Okay, is it cool? Is it would it be something that you do, like, all of a sudden when shit just starts going downhill? Is that when you look at your Democrat friends, or maybe even your Republican friends, and you just say, "See, I fucking told." Like, does that? It doesn't change anything, but does it make you?
I'm not an "I told you so" person.
You're not.
I nope. I let people come to me and do the mea culpa,
Mm-hmm.
like fuck, I should have listened to you, kind of thing. But I'm not one to rub things in. You know you're a bad dog and deserve the newspaper on the nose.
But does everybody know
You
that
know
though?
you're a bad dog.
No, 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 no.
You know what you
I
did.
I do.
Bad Jake, Pat.
But you know why
Bad
I
Jake.
know? Because I have a conscience and because I care. Now, if I was just like vote blue no matter who, and I had that kind of mentality, I'm not gonna mea culpa you. Like I'm not gonna come and say I was wrong, because all I care is that my team won and your team lost.
And
I
that's the
know
problem with
I
politics.
know people like that. I really do.
And that's the problem with politics. Is
Mm-hmm.
you've got all these people who are, you know, vote red or whatever, and vote blue or whatever, and they pick their side, and that becomes their religion. So,
I wouldn't say it's a
and it's
religion
sad.
for
It is a
everybody.
sad state of America that people can't think for their fucking selves.
So we were talking about the Biden thing, like you said. It would come out after the election. There was a survey done, and it's a fucking survey for what it's worth. But there was 14% of people, when they found out about Joe Biden, and they found out about Hunter Biden, and they found out about uh, the fact that there was basically shit that wasn't reported in the media. The only people that reported on it was Fox, right? Local news wasn't reporting it. ABC, CBS, NPR, PBS, CNN, MSNBC. Tara Reid, squash that story. Biden laptop, squash that story. Joe Biden in Ukraine, squash that story. They even had one. It was a viral video where they had a game show. They went out on the streets of New York.
I don't want to talk politics right
Oh,
now.
hold on. After all this shit was said and done, they said that 14% of the people, if they had known that stuff, if they had known that information, they probably wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. Didn't say they vote for Trump, but they said they wouldn't have voted for Joe. So assuming the election was not rigged, not falsified, illegal votes weren't counted, 80 million people just turned out and voted for Joe. More people than ever voted for Obama. Um, 14%.
That's racist.
How's it racist?
Because isn't that what you're supposed to say right now? Because Joe
Oh yeah,
Biden is a black man.
yeah. But that being said, that kind of that kind of tells you, like, you could call Americans uninformed, and I would agree with you. You can call them misinformed. I would also agree with you. But you know, when you have the major news outlets,
What about just calling them stupid and sheep?
where are they supposed to get their news though? I guess that's my where my question is. So if you're
Where
an
do you
average
get your
American,
news?
I get mine from like local YouTubers, like small guys trying to make it big.
Oh, no.
I listen if I'm at work, I listen to Rush. I'm not gonna lie, straight up, I listen to Rush, not because I think he's like the the deity, but what Rush provides is historical context. Dude, I'm only 37. I don't know what happened in fucking Congress in 1992. I don't know. And he'll say, "Well, this is what happened in 1992 when the Republicans tried to do this." And then in 95 the Democrats did this. And I'll be like, "Oh, shit, let me write this down." And then I'll go look it up. But if you're an average American, where are you getting your news? Really?
Facebook.
So you're getting it from Facebook, you're getting it from Twitter maybe. Uh
You decide. You decide how you want to run. I have zero interest in politics anymore. I want them all to go away.
I agree.
I'm going to go into the woods and I'm going to start cutting down like communication towers and
What's that? Was that
fiber lines and just be left alone.
what is that? What is that saying though? That quote about like when evil succeeds when good men stand by and do nothing.
Oh, it was I
It
don't
wasn't
know.
Churchill,
No.
but you know what I'm talking about. Like,
I know what you're talking about. My brain's fuzzy. Dude, I'm still on medication and stuff right now. So my
oh
brain's fuzzy. I don't
god,
have my recall like that.
yeah.
Um,
But you, sir, are a good man. You are a good man. Uh, Even though sometimes I don't like you, and and when I mean that, I just mean when you're like writing my ass about taxes.
Stop stealing my money.
I promise you I'm not. I have no interest in your money. You know, I am right there with you. I am right there with you. Like, I don't think I should pay for people's college. I don't think I should pay for people's retirement. I don't think I should pay for people's health insurance. I really don't. But I will pay for the law enforcement to show up. I will pay for the fire department to show up, and
So pay for law enforcement to show up and shoot innocent black people.
I mean, I kind of wanted to say this. I kind of wanted
Oh,
to say
shit.
this. This may get us banned. No, not really, but you know, as a person of multi ethnical, you know, background, you know, there were a lot of things I learned from a black woman that was my mom to not do. You know, dressing appropriately, speaking appropriately, and acting appropriately. Just saying, you know, like when the cops tell me to do shit, I fucking do it, even if I'm in the right. And I try to dress somewhat conservatively. I don't dress like a thug. I don't talk like a thug. I try to speak very clearly and concisely, and you know, I try to address people respectfully. Just saying, man. I'm just saying, like, you know, when you glorify, you know, crime in your music, in your culture, when you dress like a thug, when you act like a thug, when you talk like a thug, and when authority, you know, tries to tell you to do something and you disagree with that, you know, you may, at the end of the day, you could be like me, and you might have a 5% chance of getting shot. You might have a 50% chance of surviving after being shot. And if you survive that 50% after being that 5%, then you fucking sue the shit out of the city for what it's worth. But when you act like an asshole, you dress like an asshole, you speak like an asshole, and you challenge authority, even though the authority is not correct, there is probably a 95% chance you will end up with a bullet in your ass, and there's probably a 95% chance you will not survive from that bullet in your ass. So I would rather, as always, play the odds. As a wise black woman once told me.
But is that right?
Hmm.
Is that just?
Well, no, but no cop shooting is really just, is it? Because there are more white people killed by cops than black people. But you don't get reported that by mainstream media. There's no white lives matter in the streets. Because most of those white people doing that shit are in dire straits just like the black people doing that shit. You know? I mean, you've seen a lot of videos where white people don't get shot. Cool. Where are the videos where the white people are getting shot? You don't see them. But there's way more white people in America than black people. And, per FBI statistics, there's just more white people shot by cops every year than black people. It's just that, it's politics. Let's play up the fact that black guys are getting shot. And some of these black guys are getting shot by black cops. So how is that racist? There are a lot of black cops in inner cities. Probably more black cops than
I could
white
play
cops.
devil's advocate on this argument, but I have absolutely zero interest in doing so and talking politics.
I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more example, and then we'll drop this topic, and we'll move on to
no more examples.
Oh, come on.
Oh, go ahead.
I pull you over. You weren't speeding. You weren't doing anything wrong. I asked you for license and registration. What are you gonna do?
Why'd you pull me over, sir?
Sir, I pulled you over because we're just randomly pulling over people.
Do you have a warrant?
I don't know. I don't have your license or registration. May I see your
we
license?
We have my license plate.
I
You
need
can
to
see if my car's registered fine, and
I just need to see your
Yep.
license or registration. So you're okay. That's your route, and that's your right.
my route is turning on my fucking camera, and telling them I know what they're doing is illegal.
No, fine, but are you going to hand them your documentation, or are you just going to record them?
Nope.
Okay, so you're going to provoke them. So there is a chance.
I'm going to provoke them? Is provoking, standing up for my rights is provocation?
Whoa. Okay, all right. Now you do the same thing to me. Pull me over.
I don't want to pull you over.
Well,
you haven't done anything wrong. And I'm not an authoritarian.
I got pulled over. It's actually happened. I got pulled over 2 years ago. I was doing 5 over the speed limit. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I got pulled over. The guy asked me for my stuff, and I gave it to him. And, he said, "Oh, you're in a bit of a hurry." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just coming from this place, going to that place." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "Do you have any weapons in the vehicle?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And I named off every weapon I could think of, because I was moving. I was moving from Virginia out to El Paso. So I had my rifle, I had my shotgun, I had 3 pistols, I had a knife. I think that's what I had at the time. And he's just like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Stand by." Then he comes back, he's like, "Are you military?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, well, sorry for the wait." He asked me I was military after he did a search, and he's like, "Well, I'm sorry it took so long, but we were running your license, and it kept coming black as a black male." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, my mom's black." And he's just like, "Oh." I was like, "All right, well, thank you. Have a nice day." And that was it. I got pulled over. I was speeding. I was breaking the law. I was going like 5 over. I was respectful. I pulled over, hands on the steering wheel, windows all down, music off. Just nothing happened. Is it going to always happen that way? No. Could I get pulled over for not breaking the law? Sure. Would it bother me? Yes. Would I still do what they tell me? Yes. There were times, I think there was times as a kid, like I got my ass whooped for not doing a goddamn thing, dude. And I think that's what it is, like just the way I was brought up to respect authority, even though they may be in the complete wrong. And if I missed a job interview or something happened as a dire consequence of me getting pulled over for no fucking reason, then I'm gonna live to sue the city, or at least get a settlement out of it. That's what I'll do. But and you're right too. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're right. You're absolutely right. But I was just, you would give him shit. Okay, good for you. I wouldn't.
That's not giving him shit. I'm not. How's that giving him shit?
Well, he's
I'm
just
saying.
Well, he's asking to see your license and registration.
Papers, please.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Fuck that. I mean,
I don't know what the state of Idaho says.
I've been pulled over before
Hmm.
as well. A couple with guns. One time actually, we were moving our shop from Las Vegas back to California, which was a dumb move. But so we had all our shop equipment, and we had about 30 AKs in the back of my truck, and we got pulled over. And it was actually my business partner at the time was driving, and he was speeding. We were going into this town because he had to go to the DMV to check on his license. And so we come down this hill and he's speeding into this town, and we pull off and go in. We get food. He goes to DMV, find out his license is suspended, and so I take over driving. And as soon as we leave, I pull out and start to get on the highway. 3 cop cars come pulling up and pull me over. And yeah, we saw you coming into town going really fast and blah blah blah, and just explained the situation. He asked for my stuff, and I gave it to him because I knew my buddy was speeding. Um, and we had that conversation, and then it went back and forth, and finally they were going to give me a ticket. But I was like, I wasn't on the fucking driving. He was driving. We went to the DMV, found his license suspended, so I took over driving. And the honesty did help. They did not search the vehicle very well. They did not ask if we had weapons. We just told them we were moving our shop, our metal shop. And they saw, I mean, they saw the stuff. They saw the mill, they saw the lathe, they saw like the shop room, everything. They even commented on it, like, "Oh,
What are you
yeah, you even
driving? A
got your shop
box
room."
truck or like a quarter ton truck?
No, it's just a pickup truck stuffed in
So
the
there,
back.
where are these AKs?
They're in their boxes still. So we had all these boxes. They don't say AK-47. They did say Norinco on them, but yeah. So they just like, oh, okay, well, you know, yeah, you better drive the rest of the way and get things squared away. We're gonna radio ahead and tell people that that you were given a warning. And so I drove the rest of the way home. Another time, similar. I don't even remember where I was going or what I was doing, but I was with a buddy of mine, and we were driving. Wasn't speeding, but I did have several guns in the car. And when you're licensed, you have guns in the car, and that's the situation where I will say, you know, when they pulled, like told my buddy like hands on the dashboard. I took the key out of the ignition, put my hands through the steering wheel, held the key. Officer, there are firearms in the vehicle. I am licensed. Copy my license with the firearms. They're locked container. Here's the key. And they inspected them. Didn't run the serial numbers because one of them would have come back as their patrol division captain's gun, who had sold it to my father, who then passed it on to me. But the guy, I wasn't speeding, wasn't doing anything, and it turned out he was showing off for a ride along. So, and
I would be a little I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I got pulled over and I was doing nothing wrong, I would. But every time I have gotten pulled over, I was doing something wrong. Whether or not I got out of it is another story. But if you just got pulled over, it seemed like you diffused the situation because A, you weren't breaking any laws, and B, you did everything right. Everything you did right. Hands on the steering wheel, keys out of the ignition. I have firearms in the truck. Blah 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 blah. And he was doing it right along. But I would still be upset about it. But every time I've gotten pulled over, I was breaking the law. Just saying.
I got that guy in trouble.
For pulling over somebody for no reason?
Well, partially. That was the initial thing. It's like, what the fuck is up with this Joker? And it's like I ended up like the next day, or actually I think it was on a Friday night or something like that. I called the captain like the next Monday or something. I was like, hey, what's up with this guy in your
oh god
division?
You Karen'd him?
I wasn't a Karening. I was like, because he's a fucking idiot. Because he should have, the captain should have known something by then. Because if the guy did his job and ran the serial numbers, it would
Mm-hmm.
have come up as the captain's gun. But I had it because it was transferred to me through our FFL.
Mm-hmm.
But when they ran the stuff, I mean, they don't hit that system. So they would, if they ran those numbers, it still would have come up as the captain's.
Right.
And so, so yeah. So I call, like, hey, what's up with this Joker? And it basically is another guy had to come out there and like tell him to. And he literally, actually, that dipshit literally said, when I asked him, listen, can I go now? I was like, I'm not done. I'm not done on my soapbox yet. And so that kind of pissed me off.
Mm.
Well, it turned out this guy was one. He wasn't cleared to have a ride along. He was like just brought some girl with him, some hot girl with him to, try to show off.
Schmooze or whatever. Yeah.
Two, he had issues before with like going on record saying that certain guns were assault weapons and illegal or whatever and shouldn't be sold even though they were legal. And this was during California's assault rifle ban, assault weapon ban, um, in the 90s. And I don't remember what. There's another thing he got dinged for. But yeah, he ended up getting in trouble, and I'm happy for that. So good cops and bad cops.
No, I
The guy
totally,
who came out,
totally agree.
the guy who came out was like, listen, man, he chewed him out too. Like, I don't know why you're fucking with this guy, but just let him go. He hasn't done anything. So
No, I totally, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, no, I won't fuck with cops. They don't fuck with me. But and I work with lots of different law enforcement agencies and stuff recently, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean, there are good ones and there are bad ones. I remember one time at a conference, there was a joke about somebody said something. I don't remember. There was like a raffle and some like bag, like for hunting, for like packing out your a deer or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's like, oh yeah, you could put a whole body in that, or store a whole body in your trunk that way with that thing. And I was like,
A little
these are all like
insensitive. A little,
cops
just a little bit.
joking about this. And yeah,
Well, that that insensitive joking does happen across like the military too.
and
Uh,
I get that, and I get part of it in that they're not. I don't think any of them want to go out and just kill somebody for giggles.
no, I
I mean, I take that back. I'm sure there are some that do, but
th-
I think the
yeah,
majority of them do not.
exactly right. Like we're talking like extreme majority, extreme minority. I'm sure most people that sign up to wear the badge are doing it because they want to make a difference. Like nobody becomes a cop because they want the pay, because there's really no fucking pay there. It's like when you consider the fact that like you could die pulling someone over, like I'm gonna pull it out of my ass right now, but like your longevity being a soldier versus being like a cop, or being a sailor versus a cop or a marine, like I'm sure that you are more likely to die on the job being a cop than you are in any branch of the military. Outside of like the Civil War, but that being said, like I small majority. I'm sure there's some fucking kooks out there that they just want to shoot somebody. They just To me, you know why I wouldn't want to shoot somebody? Because even if you were in the right, even if the guy had pulled a knife on you and had stabbed you in the chest, and you pulled your gun out and you shot him in the head and you radioed and you life-saving procedures managed to keep you from that, like, people would still fucking sue you and want your head.
Yep.
And it's like, dude, I warned him. He came at me with a knife. I hit him with a taser. He kept coming. The motherfucker stabbed me, because some body armors are rated for bullets, but they're not rated for knives, and you would know that. Like, some knives, some body armors, like that Kevlar will not stop a small steel blade. When I mean small, I just mean it's narrow. It's not wide like a bullet, and you're defending, like, you. At this point, you've been stabbed. You shoot and kill the guy, and there's people outside the courthouse wanting you hung, and that's why I could never be a cop, and B, I could never fucking be a cop. Like, no, I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. At least if that was like, I'm overseas and the guy's running the gate and he's got a fucking VVID, and like I could fucking see the wires coming out of the trunk. I shoot the guy dead. I was defending the post. I was defending my life. There's gonna be a trial, but it's not going to be anything to where it is. I mean, like, we're talking about you're shooting.
Well, we're shifting way off.
Oh yeah, we are. But that's what we do. That's what we do. But dude, I could.
But my drugs are wearing off, and I'm ready to.
Yeah, no, I was getting
go back to bed.
So I just want to say thank you for, thank you for coming back, man. I appreciate you. I'm sorry about your butthole.
Yep, my second butthole.
As I've said. Well, okay, wash both your assholes.
Yeah.
As far as content, I will be gone this weekend. I am going down to San Antonio to spend Christmas with family. So we're going to try to get a show. Everybody that's watching this podcast, we're going to try to get a show in for you on Wednesday. But Darian and I just wanted to have like a show and catch you guys up on what's going on with us, because obviously, he's got...
Lots has happened in the past couple weeks.
Yeah, it has. But do we get do you get a final word out of this? Is there a final word out of any of this? Do we do an asshole? What do we do when we talk about nothing in particular?
Well, we talked about death and asses, man.
Ass, death. Yeah, okay. So do you want a last word?
I think we should do a deep dive on the death care industry and stuff like that sometime. But as far as final word, keep your butthole clean.
That's well said. Well said. If you're sitting there at home, just go ahead, slow clap. Didn't have to be too loud. Don't wake up baby in the house, but keep your asshole clean.
And morphine is great, but it's not the be all end all of painkillers.
No, it's not. For that, you get yourself a liquor cabinet like me, and you medicate.
Liquor would not have helped.
Well, obviously, you're not drinking enough. Oh, speaking of which, we still, you know what? Background, we still need to do that thing with the liquor. By the way.
Yep.
Give our
One
fans
of these
something
days,
to
we're gonna have a special liquor tasting or whiskey tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Jake is a whiskey aficionado.
A little bit.
And me, I'll drink whatever's in front of me. So he's gonna teach me and the rest of you about what good liquor is and what you're supposed to be thinking about when you're drinking.
Depends on why you're drinking, but if you're drinking for therapeutic,
so you'll get a bottle of Jack Daniels for this thing? Fuck
no. I mean, if you're drinking to get fucked up, sure, it's pretty cheap, gets the job done. But if you're drinking to enjoy, if you drink liquor like you would drink wine, or pretend to drink wine, like swirling, smelling, tasting, sure. Do not drink JD. But well, ladies and gentlemen, this will bring us to our full time. Go ahead and leave a comment, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be dropping a podcast on Wednesday, and then I will be off for maybe. No, it'll happen. He'll go back to the doctor, get some morphine in his butthole, both his buttholes, and we'll be good to go. But we'll see you guys. What's the oh shit? New Year's is right after Christmas, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck. We might have to do that show even earlier, because I'm pretty sure I will be like not drinking for enjoyment. I'll be drinking for other reasons, but once again, thank you everybody for watching the show. I'm Jake.
I'm Drake.
And this is Jake and Drake Show, and we'll see you guys soon.